Our guest on The Informer is a solo dad. His name is Michael Ray. As you'll find out, his story is an amazing one, but he comes to us as a bit more than just a single dad. He comes to us as a writer, a public speaker, a stand-up comic. His daughter, Charlie, that's IE, is 8 years of age. She's currently calling him a bit of a teaser and a stirrer and a bit of a fraud, and he seems to be rorting the system. But he's a character that I want to showcase today because he has a unique attitude, and it's not only an attitude to life, but to the things that we're struggling with today, and that is finding a new way in our society to be fairer with everyone. Men and women, we mustn't be fighting with one another, and we can do it better. Michael Ray, welcome to The Informer. Fantastic to have you here. Now, which of the Michael Rays am I going to see? Is it the single dad, the stand-up comic, the writer, the MC, the change host? Which one are we going to see?
A little bit from column A, a little bit from column B, George, but mainly the advocate for equality and change, I think.
Now, you've been not only an advocate, you've also been a writer, and you've used this writing to act to the advocacy. You've written a book a couple of years ago. It was called Kiddipedia.
Oh, sorry, I write for a parenting website called Kiddipedia.
Oh, right.
But I do have a book coming out middle of next year through
Will it be a continuation?
Yes, it will be. It's the things I've learnt being an older dad.
Being an older dad and being a single dad.
Yes.
What have you learnt? What have been the toughest lessons for a single dad in the 2020s?
What I've noticed, George, is society's just not ready for single dads. We're still seen as an anomaly. It's seen as unusual rather than uncommon.
But we see single mums everywhere. Yeah. Why can't we see single dads?
Funnily enough, George, 1 in 5 single parent households currently are fathers. So when I do this, what's that apart from the sign of terrific? That's a single dad. Yet we don't have change tables in men's toilets. 14% single father households increasing every 5 years. Single mums are only increasing at 9% every 5 years. So eventually, if the trend continues, single mums will be in the minority.
Wow.
But again, when we go to marketing, when you look at everything from laundry powder to dish soap to nappies, all mums featuring on the product. The other week, my daughter and I were at the supermarket and we did a quick straw poll. 28 products with a female on them, everything from cake mix through all the other things. The only 2 with men that we could find was Mr. Muscle and Mr. Sheen. So if it's got to be strong, it's got to be a man, and I'm not sure why Mr. Sheen and the bowler hat.
You're telling us that we still have an enormous road to travel before we get some measure of balance and equality in the community. Is that right?
Definitely, George. The problem with the equality debate at the moment, it's become like a football match.
How so?
Sides to be barracked for and against, whereas the goal is for us all to be equal. And the only way that women will achieve that true equality, not only in the workplace, but in society in general, is when men are held equally responsible for raising the next generation.
If that's the analogy you want me to follow, then we need more neutral viewers, more neutral supporters, yeah? Because part of going to a sporting contest is to back your side, and that creates the tensions that you've just talked about.
But it seems we hate the player rather than the game.
Okay. Well, some of the examples that have been held up over the years, especially through the media, would have led some of us to think that there are a great many violent men out there who shouldn't be fathers.
The problem with that big brush we want to tar everyone with, it's mentally lazy, it's convenient, it allows us to move on with something else, but it's no different to completely tarring a complete religion, minority, anything as a certain way. So we need to actually judge each one on their own. I was actually banned from assisting my daughter backstage at a ballet concert because I was male, because they said there are no males allowed in the backstage area.
But you're the father.
That's it, and I'm their only parent. So when they said, well, it's a child protection issue, I had my working with children checks as a former swim teacher, But the problem was, that's what I said to them, so every child will be with a parent except for my daughter, so who's actually at risk? So, and that's what I said, it's not about men's rights or my rights, it's about my daughter. My daughter not being the only one sitting backstage and going, with a parent, with a parent, with a parent, and here I am on my own, through no fault of my own, because of my family makeup.
Your family makeup is, of course, you're the father, you have an 8-year-old daughter now, you've been without her mother for the better part of, I think it's 6 years?
Yep, since she was 2 years old.
Since she was 2, and she's chosen that decision. She's left, she's now living in another state, and as far as she's concerned, it's you and Charlie.
Yeah, exactly. We've struggled with everything from getting passports to just being accepted. I've been challenged at parks, taking photos of my daughter. I understand they're well-meaning and well-intentioned people, and if something was wrong, I'd be glad for them.
Yeah.
But to be looked upon with suspicion, I think I can't count the number of times I've been told of fathers being challenged for using a parent's room to change a nappy.
Gee.
And that's what I say.
You mentioned an episode when you went to Portsea a number of years ago now, and you were bailed up within the first couple of hours because they were most concerned that a man had taken a young girl into a single room at the hotel.
Yep, we had the police inquire.
Knocking on the door.
Yep, as to why.
On one level, I understand that there's some concern there, and better they make a mistake than let something else unfold. But it must have been a terrible shock to you and to Charlie. How has she taken this? How's she going through this?
Charlie's great. She laughs at it now. She's my little equality advocate. And
is she really?
Yeah, she's great, George. And
is she doing stand-up comedy yet?
Yeah, constantly. That's what I say to people. I love the fact that she's a strong, independent-willed child with her own sense of self. I just wish I could switch it off till she got to about 16 because it's tiring.
I was going to say she's 8, going on 18 probably, huh?
Yeah.
Golly. Now, this personal journey of yours, you want to chronicle it. There's the new book that you mentioned. What's the sort of subject matter that this book will entail? Will it be the story from go to woe?
Yep, from go to woe. There's a lot of stuff on my website, michaelray.com.au.
michaelray.com.au.
The book will be out through Daisy Lane Publishing middle of next year, and it's just about some of the ways that society isn't quite ready, and the equal but opposite effects that it has on women's equality and why they struggle with it. Fathers often hit hurdles, everything from the media portrayal as bumbling fools to workplaces. Currently in Australia, fathers are entitled to 2 weeks at minimum pay when their partner has a child. So when we talk about the undervalued and unpaid nature of caring, that's a fairly good example of how important fathers are held.
Now, you have critics on both sides of the fence. You have men who'll say, mate, grow up here or toughen up a bit, and you have women on the other side saying, what? You
couldn't possibly understand, you're not a mother. And as I always say to them, George, you're right, I couldn't understand, and I wouldn't even, it must be amazing for you, but please don't diminish or devalue my experience as a father, because you surely couldn't understand it. And to think that my daughter's getting a lesser love than what she would if her mother was in her life, it's abhorrent to me. And and with the men, I just cannot understand the culture that says one of the most masculine, manly things you can do is to sire or father a child, but somehow if you want to stay at home and care for that child and change nappies, you're socially castrated.
Michael Ray, it's been a delight to have you in the studio. If you want to know more, michaelray.com.au. Thank you very much.
Thanks, George.